Welcome, everybody, to Dead Talk Live. Our guest today is returning Steve Gonsalves from Ghost Hunters, which is premiering its newest season this Thursday, April 6th, on the Travel Channel and Discovery Plus. Steve, it's always a pleasure to talk with you, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you. How are you? Thank you for having me back.
Oh, man, you kidding? I love this. I mean, you are like the OG. You guys are like the
Oh,
OG of paranormal investigators on television, especially. So let's get right down to it. I mean, you've been doing this for a really, really long time now. Uh, Long question cut short. Is there anything still out there that surprises you to this day?
yes, there are a lot of things that surprise me, and we're always learning. Every investigation, every experience, everything we do, we always come away with a new perspective, and with that, also experiences and things that we hadn't quite experienced before, and that does happen. I know recently, um, just a few months ago, we were filming, and I believe it may have been at the Bastille, or maybe even the Hoover Dam, but I had seen a moving black mass of sorts just sort of working its way through the environment, and I had never really seen anything like that
Wow.
before. That sort of
Wow.
took me, but that happens. I've seen things like that, and things that, of course, I've interpreted as shadow-like figures, but nothing really this clear and in depth and right in front of me. So things do surprise for sure. And there was another case where, whether you believe in the demonic side or you don't, I don't know how to explain what happened here, but we had called in the clergy,
Hmm.
to bless a home and to do what they do for the client. And I don't know what it was, but that house was different right after, and everybody noticed it. I mean, we were running around that house laughing and jovial with each other. People were smiling. And just, the day before, we were all like downtrodden and
Yeah.
feeling terrible inside. And, even the film crew, and as you know, they're not necessarily believers, and
Yeah.
they're just there to document what we do. Luckily, most of them do believe in the afterlife and the paranormal, but those who don't, we saw them looking at each other like, what is going on?
Yeah.
This place feels like a different house, and I didn't expect that in such a turn of events so quickly. But yeah, things do still surprise me. Yeah.
That's awesome. Now, this season 16. This is season officially season 16 of Ghost Hunters, correct?
It is,
Yes.
yes.
Okay. Now, you guys premiere at what is now called the Bastille. It's a over 125-year-old building that was originally a jail. The place has seen numerous deaths. It has gone through numerous transformations over the years, from restaurants and so on. Now, when you first pulled up to the Bastille, what were your initial impressions, your feelings when you first looked at this very beautiful building, by the way?
It is actually gorgeous. And you know what's interesting is some places you go to, they don't look haunted. They don't always look like a haunted, a prison or hospital. Sometimes they're quite beautiful.
Yeah.
But this place, pulling up to it, it does have a beauty to it. But it was one of those places you go, oh, okay. But you can already feel while you're there. You're like, okay, I get it. That's California, Hanford, California,
Yeah.
is the exact city, but not a town that's known for its hauntings,
Hmm.
or known for California in general, although does have some spots where there's a lot of activity. You don't immediately think, I need to get to California
Yeah.
and look for the paranormal. It's just not one of those areas of the country that you're constantly getting feedback from. But this place just stood out. We're driving through like, oh, and one thing for us that is kind of a grisly thing is, the trauma of a place can work in our favor. The tragedy of a place can work in our favor, where death, that sort of thing, unfinished business,
Hmm.
the feelings of being wronged in life, all of that uh, works in our favor. And the Bastille had a lot of that
Yeah,
happening.
yeah.
And I think that carried over.
I was surprised as the episode progressed how intense things got. Now you had several guests join you, Satori and Cody, who we know very well, and Chandler Riggs, who I've spoken to from The Walking Dead. We those of us who watched The Walking Dead watched him grow up from an 8-year-old boy to the man he is today. Great down to earth guy to talk to. What were your impressions of Chandler? I didn't even know he was a believer in the paranormal, so that was news to me. What were your thoughts on how he approached the situation, conducted himself, and was open to listening to advice on how to proceed and so on?
Chandler was absolutely fantastic. I met Chandler for the first time. I think it was season 2 of Walking Dead. So maybe
Yeah,
2010, 2011. He was a little
nine
fella
or ten
back
year old
then.
guy. Yeah.
Yeah, he was actually, we were at the same, I think we were in Atlanta, and his parents brought him over to meet me and say
Hmm.
hello. And I knew he looked familiar. I'm like, I know this. And I think it was the mom's like, do you ever watch Walking Dead? But even then, he had told me, he said, my favorite show ever. I love what you guys do. When I get older, he is older now,
Hmm.
much. He's a complete,
Yeah.
gentleman and a great person. But seeing that look in his eyes when he was younger and saying, when I'm older, I'm going to do what you do. He always had his eyes set on the paranormal. And, I've seen him grow up, not just on television, but we would run into each other and meet up every couple years and chat. And he's always had that interest. And I tell you what, he has always been one of the most polite,
Oh yeah.
nicest. I
Absolutely.
don't want to say kids because he's
No,
not a
no,
kid. He's a but when he was a kid, he was so sweet, and it's awesome to see that it's carried over into his adult years. He's just as awesome. But what was cool is how serious he took it. He
yes, I
really
noticed that.
wanted to learn, and he was really investigating. Sometimes people can just love and get so caught up in it. It seems that they're more along for the ride.
To observe. Yeah.
Exactly. And nothing against them. They just get, it's their first time experiencing this sort of thing, and it's wondrous to them, the paranormal thing.
Yeah.
But he jumped in as an investigator and was really trying to dig quite deep. And, I don't want to speak for him, but he did have some pretty intense experiences that I think may have, tuned up his interest quite a bit.
Exactly, and we're going to get to one of those interests in a bit. Also, Satori and Cody. Satori is Jason's daughter, so we've seen
Hmm.
her for a while now. Now, watching Satori and Cody together, they have this amazing, unique way of investigating, and they come up with some evidence that makes you say, "Wow," you know. The joining of the hands, combining the energy, the alphabet, and they get names that never even pop up in your research. What do you think about Satori and Cody and their methods? And does it even today blow you away the information they walk away from?
I've known Satori obviously since she was in diapers.
Yeah,
Before I knew Jason. Oh gosh, I don't want to say it wasn't before she was born, but she was definitely in diapers. So I've known Satori her whole life,
yeah,
and Jay and I would come back from an investigation. This was before television, and his kids would be, looking for ghosts in their own house. It's just in the family. And they do have a unique way of doing things, and we get much the same sort of interactions, where you're trying to you're trying to communicate through verbalizations in the environment, whether that be for wrappings and sounds, or whether it be through verbal words. And they have a way of, they just thought of that technique on another level. Let's really pay attention and not just, hey, are you here? Let's
yeah.
hear back. let's see if we can get them to spell out words. And you may not always see it, on the show, but they do try to work in patterns where maybe they'll, get them to say a certain letter 3 times in a row, that
Yeah.
sort of thing. So they're getting some interesting
Hmm.
uh, results with that. We look at it, as a team, as a tool in our toolbox,
Yeah.
and we like to cross-reference it with, scientific sort of data and of course, different things that will help bolster those results that they get. But I think it's quite fascinating, and they're great. I've known Cody as well for he was still a member of the TAPS home team.
Yeah.
Uh, so we've known him and his investigation styles for quite some time.
It blew me away what they came away with, especially in this episode. Now, there was an interesting moment where you, Jason, and Chandler were on the first floor, and you say you can follow us, and then Chandler funnily says, "Well, you can follow him." But that got me thinking. You doing this for so long, do you have to constantly remind yourself not to become complacent? Maybe say the wrong thing where if that spirit energy hears you, it's not only going to follow you around the building, it may follow you outside the building as well.
Yeah, that's a great question. You do have to think about those things and what you're, saying in the environment. There is something there with intelligence listening to you, or doing things. And for sure, you do have to think about that and what the sort of downriver effect of that would be. And some people do claim that things have followed them
Mm.
home. So I can understand Chandler if he's not ready for that sort of thing. Saying no, no, follow him.
It was very funny.
No, it was great. But quite frankly, I'm not that interesting. Nothing's following me home. If anything, I'm like, we came to his house. He's just playing video games. Like, get me out of here. But some people may have to worry about something following them home, and some investigators have, claimed that things have followed
Yeah,
them home. I don't blame Chandler for that. It was all in good fun. Um, but it can follow you around the building, can follow you.
absolutely.
It
Absolutely.
sure could.
Now, when it was Satori, Cody, and Chandler, that's when they came up using their method of the alphabet. They came up with a name. And with Chandler's help, they uncovered something there was no way you guys were going to find that otherwise, unless something told you where to look. And that's a old pen, buried beneath the baseboard of a wall. I mean, what do you think about that? To uncover a piece of history like that buried in the walls of the Bastille.
It was really fascinating to see, and everybody was sort of like, wow, like
Yeah,
where did this come from? And we've seen those sort of, not in such a direct way, obviously, but we have definitely had that kind of activity, and I guess you would say direct response in terms of trying to get somebody in the physical world to do or find
yeah,
something. We had a case, oh gosh, I want to say 15 or maybe even 20 years ago, where we had, through EVPs and disembodied voices and sounds, something lead us to an area where there was a book in a wall. And that
wow,
book in a wall did detail some grisly things and possibly even some murderous activity. Not so somebody who may have done something pretty grisly when they were alive dictated it,
yeah,
and you know
buried it on the wall.
yeah,
Yeah,
we found that,
Ah,
and we were led to that through EVPs and disembodied voices and sounds, and we couldn't believe we found that. It was before the days of our show, so it's not documented in
mm-hmm.
that regard. But that type of thing is really cool to
Yeah.
see.
I mean
Um,
that really even the skeptics out there were like, "Oh man, wow." I mean, how exactly does that really work? There is another great piece of evidence when you guys are about to leave. You're even announcing, "Okay, we're stepping outside," and that's where we hear the loud metal hit the ground. Okay, you guys have to look around to try to find where that emanated from, and you discover it's about like a 2 foot long steel iron rod. And if you look at the dust outline, it wasn't shifted across the bed. It clearly looks like somebody picked it up, moved it, and dropped it on the floor. Now, it looks like a heavy piece of iron, maybe 5 to 10 pounds, but it was very loud. You guys kept your cool, kept your calm, and were very fascinated as to that you caught this poltergeist. What was your feeling on that? Because it happened as you were leaving. Do you interpret that as a message as, hey, don't leave yet, or yeah, get the hell out?
To be honest, I think every case is different. That may be a way of saying, "Hey, I don't leave yet." I
Hmm.
haven't, maybe passed the message along that I'm waiting to, or you haven't discovered, or you don't even know I'm here yet.
Yeah.
Or it could be if we're dealing with something residual, it may have just have happened. But then again, if it was residual, it would be a case by case basis. Here, if you're dealing with something in the environment and not just the sound, then likely it's not residual. It's going to be something with intelligence that can interact in the environment. But if it was just the sound, possibly something residual. But I think in the Bastille, we were dealing with something that has some intelligence to
Oh,
it,
definitely.
something that remembers its physical world and may be able to still see it and interact with it. So I believe that to be an intelligent haunting. Would it have happened if we weren't there? Maybe, I don't know, but I think it was trying to tell us something. I think it was saying, "Hey, uh,
The
you shouldn't
timing
be."
was a little too coincidental.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And it's funny, we see that a lot where you're about to leave a place and then something happens, and it is a phenomena. I have a documentary project where we were about to leave, and all of a sudden, that's when all of the activity
Yeah.
started to happen for us. On Ghost Hunters, that is something we've encountered quite a bit as a team. Taps, we encounter that, and I have a book project, a book in the works, and one of the chapter titles is actually "Sometimes It's When You Least Expect It."
Yeah.
And it's super true. And here at the Bastille, it's certainly that is a case of us least expecting it because we were ready. We were walking out. We
Oh,
were,
yeah, definitely. Yeah. You could see
yeah.
it. You guys were walking out. Now, in this case, you had a rare opportunity to get a trigger object from when the prison was in operation and somebody tried to take their own life. That was the straight edge razor that you guys brought back to the Bastille. Now, considering that the interaction with that razor was kind of minimal, as an investigator, do you sort of take it and put that in the column? Okay, maybe the spirit of this person is not here anymore.
It could be. You always have to keep everything in mind with the experiences. You need to think of intent. If it was the a spirit or person that we're trying to communicate with, does the intent make sense? Why would they do something? Why would they interact around certain objects? And we also, as investigators, and even people who are just enthusiasts of what we do as investigators, it's important to remember too that you don't need a death to have a haunting. You don't
No,
have to have that connection, and not every death becomes a haunting.
exactly.
So you can have a phenomena that isn't surrounding a certain person or a certain item, or maybe just haven't figured that out yet. But there doesn't always have to be that direct link of, there was a person there at one time who had this, and maybe they used it as, a bit of a
Yeah,
grisly a sort of thing, or maybe they did. It could also be with something like that, somebody just reacting to it as, an item. Oh, it's a straight
exactly.
razor. I had loved getting my hair cut. You'd never really know. I loved getting barbershop
Yeah,
shaves. You really don't know, and you need to think of intent and the why. It's all the who, what, where, when, and why. It all needs to make sense for you to consider it, you know, uh, an interaction with
yeah.
a specific person.
Now, I asked Cindy Keza this question, and I'm going to ask you the same question. When it comes to poltergeist activity, there's sort of two schools of thought. Poltergeist activity can be caused by the emotions of a living person. If their emotions are so powerful, they could be thousands of miles away, but if they were at a location where something happened, they can manifest poltergeist activity at that location. The second school of thought is it comes from a dead person, a noisy ghost, which is the definition of a poltergeist. Cindy said she believes both are true and can happen. Do you agree with that, or do you lean more one way than another?
I think it's both. I really do. I don't think there is any strict rules as to this happens, this doesn't, this can, it can't. When you're dealing with spirituality, if you're dealing with things that you see in the physical world, now we do know that that needs to, anything needs to obey the laws of science, or we're just not able to see it in our
Yeah.
physical world here. But the more even you learn about that, it's interesting. Science now, they could take two atoms that were once together and separate them,
Hmm.
like put them across the world.
And they mirror each
And,
other.
right. And they can do something to one atom and the other one reacts.
Hmm.
And it's just because they were next to each other at one point. And they have this, I think it's called connectivity
Yeah.
theory.
Yeah.
And,
That is truly amazing. I mean, I know exactly what you're talking about, and that
yep.
blows. That's just that quantum physics of science. Just is it's hard for everyday people to wrap their minds around, but it does happen. It's been proven. Uh, what can we expect in this season of Ghost Hunters? Did you guys go to a lot of interesting places? We can see some cool stuff. How would you explain this upcoming season?
It really, personally, I think it's some of our best investigations. We really were able to use a lot of different techniques because we're investigating places that we never thought we would be
Hmm.
investigating. Investigating the Hoover Dam. Uh, when you get there and realize the size of it, it's so daunting just thinking about how am I going to investigate this. And then hearing all the stories, all of the deaths. I mean, almost 100 people died during the building.
Yeah.
And that's just during the building of the dam. Think of what has happened there. And let's not forget, you don't always need trauma and tragedy. It can just be good times that people have had at places or a place that they felt very connected to. So we had a lot of potential there for activity. The Argonaut and Kennedy mines, those were really fascinating to investigate. And they were two mines that were rivals. They were on sort of the same property, but far enough away. And they were rivals and really fought against each other. But then there was a fire that trapped, oh gosh, I forget the exact number. I want to say it was about 30. Don't quote me, that could
Yeah.
be skewed, but they were trapped. And the two mines ended up coming together, and really the whole town did to try to save these
Wow.
trapped miners. Sadly, it didn't,
Wow.
happen. They all passed away. But they tried, and it became a whole thing where the city or town, whatever it was at the time, really came together, and it was a
Mhm.
learning moment, and for I think that whole area,
That's
and
amazing.
it
That's
was really
amazing.
really cool. But yeah, I remember Jay and I were investigating. I don't know if how much I should say, but I remember there was stories of, and this is really sad and grisly to talk about, but it's true. There is a story of a gentleman falling from a lookout at the mine. It may have even been a lookout for things like fire. Again, I'm speaking out of
Yeah.
turn. I don't quite remember the exact nuances. Um, and he fell to his death.
Wow.
And we did, all of a sudden, Jay and I heard what we thought sounded like somebody falling and
Wow.
hitting the ground, and sure enough, when we play back the audio, you hear those exact sounds. And it was really kind of, put stuck all our hairs on end. And
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
something you'll be thinking about for a long time. And as much as we preach, not preach, but say, you shouldn't be necessarily scared of the paranormal. There's nothing to fear because it's not going to hurt you. There is some things that
Yeah.
are quite, there are, I should say, excuse me, there are some things that are quite scary, and
Hmm.
they can be scary. For us, we may get startled a little more so, but then we go after it and we get, intrigued by it. But even for us, it can be scary. And when you're encountering certain things, but we have some, you know, I hate to always talk about evidence, but we have some great evidence too this season. Between thermal evidence, we have a complete mapping, a scanner that is something that we can carry around with us, and it maps the environment and shows us anything that's moving within
XLS,
the
yeah.
environment.
Yeah.
Not SLS, no,
Okay.
not SLS. It is a LiDAR device
Okay.
using lasers and sonar, but it works so awesome. And we've been able to see things moving in the environment and say, there's something over there. We
Wow.
go over there and investigate a little more, and we get EVPs, we see things, we're here. So this has really been quite valuable, and we use it a lot this coming season. And I think people will really like
That
that device.
sounds really excited. I'm looking forward to it. Before I let you go, I do want to ask you one question. You released a follow-up documentary to The House in Between.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was coming out. It caught me by surprise. I was just looking through the streaming networks, and I'm like, "Whoa, this is a part two." A great follow-up documentary. Do you plan on monitoring that house for a while more? You think there's more to be revealed from that house?
I think so for sure. I mean, I don't want to say too much about what the current state of the house is. I'll leave
Mm-hmm.
that up to the folks over there. But it is still very much so being investigated. I think some of the activity has been ramped up a little bit, not because of what we're doing there, but I think because of introducing, the team there to different techniques and
Mm-hmm.
things that they're continuing to use. And we were able this time to get a geophysicist, Carolyn. You'll see her in the
Mm-hmm.
documentary. And we tried during part one. I tried for 4, 5, 6 months and was just nope, nope, nope. We'll lose our funding. Nope, nope. I'll get fired. Nope, nobody. But she was willing to, put herself on the line and come to the house and do some work. But what's interesting about that is she still goes to the house and does research on her own, just because she's so fascinating excuse me, so fascinated by what happened there
Yeah.
that she can't quite let it go. She wants more answers.
As
She
a
wants to
scientist,
learn
that's what
more.
they want. They want to know what is causing it. That's the curiosity that drives science. Steve, this has been an amazing chat. We've been on for almost 30 minutes. I can't believe that. Guys, the new season of Ghost Hunters is premiering this Thursday, April 6th on the Travel Channel and Discovery Plus. I had the honor of watching the premiere episode. It's great. Chandler Riggs is a guest star from The Walking Dead. Satori and Cody also joined the investigation, along with Steve, Jay, Shari, Tango. The whole group is there. Congratulations. It's going to be another great season. I want to thank our audience, those of you guys who we have a great, nice live audience for a Tuesday afternoon, for tuning in live, and those of you who'll be watching this later on. Again, a big thanks to our guest, Steve Gonsalves. From all of
Thank you.
us, stay safe and stay walking. Bye, everybody.